Alright everyone, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed that footage of me using this build in the Countdown game mode, which I must have spent 6, 7, 8 hours in that Countdown game mode yesterday. I'm actually having a lot of fun with it, but that's for another video. Today I want to show you the build that I was using. Now, the gear set that I've been using here is the Heartbreaker gear set. It's the new gear set added with Season 9. This gear set, you're going to see a lot of build videos come out with this gear set involved, and there is going to be a ton of variations of using it because this gear set is very versatile, it's very strong, and it's pretty much going to be meta for PVE content, as you're going to see. So let's go over the gear set first off. So this is the Heartbreaker gear set. The two-piece gives you 15% assault rifle damage, and you get that 15% LMG damage as well with that. The three pieces gives you 15% weapon handling, and then for the four pieces, the Heartstopper talent here, headshots apply pulse for 5 seconds. Weapon hits on pulsed enemies add a stack of 1% bonus armor, and 1% damage to pulsed enemies up to a max of 50 stacks. So if you're able to keep that buff up, then you're looking at 50% bonus armor, 50% damage to pulsed enemies, and 2 stacks are lost each second. So pretty much this, if you're in constant combat, you're going to be able to keep this buff up pretty much all of the time, as long as you're hitting at least one headshot every 5 seconds, which isn't all that difficult when there are a lot of enemies, which in Countdown there is. In most instances where there are NPCs, there are quite a lot of them. So it's pretty easy to keep this buff up. As you've seen from the footage, you get a ton of armor and you get a ton of damage as well, especially when this is completely maxed out. Now the core attribute, I've gone with armor. And in terms of my attributes, I've gone for crit damage, and then I've got a crit chance mod on there. So my thinking behind this is, you're going to see I'm running 4 blues and 2 reds. My thinking behind this is that I personally feel as though, even in Countdown where there are 8 players, especially when you come up against hunters, you find you get put in a situation where you do take a lot of damage a lot of the time. And I found that if I was to run all reds, that I would constantly be having to use medkits or getting support from other players. And I'm one of those sort of players that likes to make sure that NPCs are either distracted so they're not aiming at me, or that if they are aiming at me, that I've got, you know, a fair bit of armor and I can sustain myself. And so that's why I've gone with this build, because not only are you doing a lot of damage, which you saw, but you're able to sustain yourself anyway. And I think this will actually be a pretty good solo build for those very reasons. So let's go on to the chest piece here. So the gloves, the knee pads, and the holster here, as you're going to see, they're all the Heartbreaker stuff here. We got armor, crit damage, armor, crit damage, and then we've got armor and crit damage as well for the holster. Now, in terms of the chest piece here, I've gone with a Fenris group chest piece, mainly because with this particular build I'm running an assault rifle as my main weapon, and you get that 10% assault rifle damage, which can't be scoffed at. I've got weapon damage on here, I've got crit damage, crit chance, and then we've got a crit chance mod. Now, you could change that crit chance mod to crit damage and have more crit damage, but then your crit chance will be lower. I'll show you here, my crit chance is at 48.8%. If you're running on Countdown and you know someone's running, say, their Coyote mask, and they're in your group, basically, then you could maybe remove that crit chance mod and have the crit damage on there, as the Coyote mask is going to give you that additional crit chance that you need to almost reach the cap. I think you're going to have a significant amount of extra crit damage, and you'll be able to do a lot more damage overall. But as I built this around being almost a solo player, because I don't know what anyone else is going to run in the Countdown game mode, because I mostly play matchmaking, then I've gone with the opposite, where I've leaned more into the crit chance rather than the crit damage itself, and which is why it's almost at 50%. I don't need to go much higher than that. I feel as though that's a good balance between the crit chance and the crit damage. Now, in terms of the talent, I've gone with the Spotter talent. Amplifies total weapon and skill damage by 15% to pulsed enemies. Now, of course, that works really well in tandem with the Heartbreaker gear set, where you are going to be getting pulse off often with those headshots. So when you combine, say, for example, a max stacked kind of Heartbreaker 4-piece talent here with 50% damage and 50% bonus armor with this, then you're looking at that extra 15% damage on top of that. So you're looking at 65% damage there, which is a significant amount of damage when they're both up. And you'll find this is up a lot of the time, as you'll see in a moment. So moving on to the backpack. Now, for me personally, as I said before, I like to make sure I've got a lot of survivability. I don't know why my character's turning around like that. I guess it's to show the backpack. Never really noticed that too much. So for me, it's more about the survivability. I've gone with the Matador. You get that 5% weapon damage, which is significant. I've gone with the weapon damage core attribute. I've gone for a 6% crit chance mod. We've got crit damage on there, and then we've got also crit damage on there. Now, I've gone for this piece for the perfect adrenaline rush. Whenever you're within 10 meters of an enemy, gain 23% bonus armor for 5 seconds and stacks up to 3 times. So, with this, you're looking at what? About 60 to 70% extra bonus armor. And if you obviously are keeping your buffs up with the Heartbreaker gear set, then you're looking at a significant amount of bonus armor, because you get that 50% there as well. So you're looking at 70% here, 50% there of bonus armor. So it's you're going to find that you're going to have to rush to make sure that perfect adrenaline rush is always up. But in countdown mode, where you find that a lot of the time you can get within 10 meters pretty easily of enemies, you're going to want to stay within those 10 meters, and that's exactly what I do. And as long as you're taking NPCs down as well, and you're keeping that Heartbreaker talent up, the Heartstopper talent, then you're going to find that you're just always in bonus armor, and you're always going to be really, really quite tanky most of the time. Now, in terms of the weapon, I've gone with the Kingbreaker, which is the new named weapon on this. I think it's actually got the wrong model, I think, because it's meant to be a variant of the TKB 408, I believe, but it looks like an AK. I think that's my understanding of it. So it's the wrong model here, but that's what it is, I believe. Now I've gone with, it's got assault rifle damage on there, it's got health damage on there, which is really important against like the Robo-Dogs and some of the Chungers and stuff. And then for the attribute of the bomb, I've got with crit damage. Now, I am undecided about this, whether I go with damage to armor instead. So that is kind of I'm testing that at the moment, because 10% crit damage isn't a whole lot. I think I can get damage to armor at 8%, which is actually quite significant. So I'm currently testing that, but for right now, I've just gone with that extra crit damage, especially as my crit chance is at 50% nearly. So the reason I've gone with the Kingbreaker is for perfect flatline. Amplifies weapon damage by 20% to pulsed enemies. And after 2 kills, applies pulse to the next enemy that you hit. So it's very strong. Now, perfect flatline is very strong. You get that 20% to pulsed enemies here. You get that 15% to pulsed enemies here. And then you're getting an extra 50% damage to pulsed enemies here. It all stacks up. It all marries very well. And it's very, very strong. Now, I don't know at this stage whether the Kingbreaker is the best option, because you can get the flatline talent, which gives you 15% weapon damage to pulsed enemies, and I don't know if that's better to apply that to another assault rifle or not. The Kingbreaker at the moment feels very, very strong. There's no doubt about it, but I haven't tested it with another assault rifle with just the flatline talent yet, and that's something I will do. But for right now, this build with this weapon melts. In terms of my secondary weapon, I've gone with the mop. The reason I've gone with the mop, well, this particular mop has flatline, so I get that extra 15% to pulsed enemies. But the reason I've gone for a shotgun here and not something like an LMG, which you would think would be the second option when you consider that you get that 2-piece, that LMG damage. The reason I've gone with a shotgun is that in the countdown game mode actually not specifically in any game mode, when you're dealing with a lot of enemies that are getting closer, having a shotgun on hand that can deal a significant amount of damage really quickly is very, very important. Now, I have been toying between the mop and the Scorpio. Scorpio for the reasons that it staggers enemies, easily. It electrocutes enemies easily, and it gives you that time to kind of back up or move away. At the moment, I'm running the mop, but if you wanted to run something like the Scorpio, that would absolutely make sense as well. And yeah, that's something that I interchange between these two depending on how well we are doing as a team, especially in countdown. If I feel as though I'm being rushed more often than not because maybe my the team that I'm running with aren't quite up to the task, then I'd probably swap it out for the Scorpio just to give me that extra kind of protection in the event that I get flanked and rushed often. In terms of the pistol, I haven't really got one at this stage, to be honest, guys. I haven't really thought about it, so yeah, that's just me being honest with you. Onto the skills, I've gone with the decoy. Reason I've gone for the decoy is, again, it's that situation where if I can keep NPCs shooting away from me, then it allows me to be as, you know, my survivability goes up. And that is really important to me. And it's important to this build. This build, I feel as though, is made for a solo player, but you can use this in something like Countdown, and it's very, very effective in a team, because you can hold your own. When everyone else is dying around you, you're going to find that you don't, because you've got that bonus armor, and you're able to throw out the decoy, and you're able to, you know, stay alive, basically. And that's why I've gone with the decoy. Now, if you run with a really good team, and you don't have to worry about something like that, then you don't even, I mean, I don't even know if this build is a build that you should use, really. It's got a lot of survivability. Maybe you just go all reds. I don't know. But for me personally, having a decoy really, really helps. Of course, I've got the pulse up. It's got a duration of 11 seconds. It's got no skill tiers or anything like that. It's got a cooldown of 18 seconds, whatever. In many ways, you don't even need the pulse, because as long as you're hitting headshots, you're going to get the pulse from the Heartbreaker gear set. I just like to use it. For me, it's one of those things that is just really, really important to use. You're going to find that quite often when you fight hunters. You're going to be fighting from a distance, and having the pulse and not having to rely on those headshots is actually quite important. And if you're running it in the countdown mode, having the pulse is really important for highlighting enemies anyway. So it's good to have, definitely. In terms of mods, I don't think it matters too much. I've gone with radius and effect duration on this particular piece here. So in terms of the specialization, I've actually gone with the gunner specialization, and I'm going to tell you why. So I've seen people running Demolitionist a few times. I assume they're running it for the 5% damage to targets out of cover. Now, if you're just wanting to go out and out damage, kind of makes sense, especially because it applies to the whole group. Again, I've kind of built this around me and me playing solo rather than as a group. I've gone with Gunner for two reasons, actually. The first reason is I get that rate of fire increase by 5% on kill for 5 seconds, which is nice. And, you know, it gives me an extra, 30 to 40 RPM, and overall that increases my my DPS. The second reason is this. You know, you're killing enemies grants 10% armor. And you're going to find that you are killing enemies fairly quickly with this build. You know, you are going to see crits. When you're fully maxed out, you're going to see crits of 1 million with this build. 100%, you're going to see crits of 1 million. So you're going to be taking down enemies pretty quickly, and you're going to get that bonus armor. You're going to get that extra armor on top. So I think that's pretty good. Now, I could be wrong about this. I think this applies to bonus armor. If it doesn't, then I guess there is an argument to be made around this and Demolitionist. So, yeah, either or is going to work absolutely fine, to be honest. I'm running Gunner at the moment. The other thing I'll say about Gunner, actually, before I leave the specialization, is personally, I actually prefer the Gunner as a specialist weapon. The Gunner specialist weapon is actually pretty strong. I've been using it a little bit just to see if it's any good, and it's actually pretty good. Demolitionist, the grenade launcher, isn't nearly as good, I don't feel. So yeah, I mean, if you do run into trouble and you want to use a specialization weapon, which I know most people don't, but if you want to, then this is going to be really, really strong for that. In terms of stats, guys, I mean, I'll just show you briefly what we got on here. So we got that 48%. 49% crit chance, 140% or 139% crit damage. And we're not maxed out on this build, guys. You know, we don't have a max of everything. I'm not fully done with this. But for me, this build is just really, really, really strong. If you really wanted more, you could actually take away, if you wanted more survivability, you could take away these crit damage mods, and you can put on someone like protection from elites. But I found that that's a bit overkill. You don't need that much extra armor. And actually, I was toying with the fact that this build has so much armor most of the time that you don't even need 4 blue cores. You could probably run 3, and that's something I'm going to check. I'm going to test out over the next kind of week or two. I've actually been saving up some Heartbreaker pieces here that I already have red attributes, so that I can change the core attribute to something like weapon damage, for example. But for now, this is the build. It's unbelievably strong. You're going to do a lot of damage. Like I said, you can hit up to 1 mil crits. I've seen 1 mil crits for this build when everything's topped out, which is really, really strong considering you're running 4 blue cores. You've got 1.5 million armor, and your bonus armor is going to be insane with this build as well. So that's really, really strong. And your survivability is through the roof. You could run this as a solo player. You can run it in a group, in the countdown mode. You just find that you don't ever really go down. The only time you've got to be a little bit more kind of nervous is around hunters. But I think any build is that way. When you're not using a shield and you're not fully tanked out. And even when you do have that, if you're running something like a Scorpio, for example, instead of like the mop, then hunters they're pretty much nullified with a Scorpio, it feels like, most of the time. That's the only time, but I think that's the same for everyone. This build can take a lot more from a hunter than most builds can. But that's it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you did, drop a like, subscribe, all of that stuff down below. I do want to do more build videos into the future. Let me know if you enjoyed this one. Would really, really appreciate it. Until the next one, Epic out.